Hello and welcome to the RNCM. My name is Chris and I'm the head of strings. I'm standing in the concert hall of the RNCM, which is the busiest live music venue in the Northwest. Adjacent to this concert hall is our opera theatre, and behind me is the recital room, which is more suited to small events. Normally, there's a real buzz around the public spaces just outside this hall. There are our restaurant and bar areas where students and staff can grab a coffee, have a meal, or just chill when they have a gap in their timetable. Many people tell us that they pick up on the friendly atmosphere when they walk into the building, and they like the fact that there's a really nice social hub for hanging out. In this short talk, I'll tell you about the School of Strings here and some of our activities. We have about 200 students made up of all the orchestral string instruments, including harp, as well as guitars. I thought I'd start by taking a moment to introduce myself. Maybe it's helpful for you to know something about my background. I'm a cellist, and as it happens, I studied here at the RNCM, and I remember taking part in its 10th anniversary celebrations. After my 5 years here, I spent a year studying in France with Paul and Maud Tortelier before returning to the UK to start a performing career. I was a member of the BBC Philharmonic for 23 years, during which time I travelled the world. My first overseas concerts were in Rio, and I've taken part in over 100 London Proms concerts. For much of my time in the BBC Phil, I chose to do a 50% contract so that I had time to do a variety of chamber music and some solo performances. I've done concerts with lots of different orchestras and also some pop music sessions too. I'm really keen on education, and I've taught at Cheetham School of Music, in various university music departments, and here at the RNCM. It's been really good to teach, travel, and perform at high levels in various areas of the music profession. In fact, I've really loved it, and these days I'm enjoying helping students to find their own particular niche in the music world and get the same enjoyment from music which I've had. Anyway, I'd like to introduce you now to Catherine Yates. She's the Deputy Head of the School of Strings, and I'll let her talk to you for a minute.
Hello everyone. Like Chris, I was also a student here at the RNCM. I'm a violinist and I also play the viola. Having studied here at the RNCM, I then started a career as a member of the Sorrel Quartet. We formed actually at the college, coached and cajoled by the inspiring late Dr. Chris Rowland, and went on to perform all over the world, broadcasting for the BBC, holding residencies at 6 of Britain's major universities, and recording a fair few CDs, including a complete Shostakovich cycle, as well as discs of works by Britten, Elgar, Mendelssohn, Schubert, amongst others. After 20 years or so, I swapped the small for the large and joined the Halle Orchestra as principal second violin. I'd always done some orchestral playing, mostly chamber orchestra though, so this was something of a baptism of fire. With my chamber and orchestral experience, I hope I'm well placed to offer a useful perspective to our students, and now that I'm at this role in the RNCM. I've been doing this now for about 6 years, whilst continuing to perform regularly as a chamber musician and also as a guest principal with various orchestras around the country. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than to sit on stage with some of our former students around me.
One thing that's really rewarding about my job is witnessing students making progress as they make their journey through college. I really like seeing them in a variety of settings, whether that's chamber music, solo playing, or performing in an orchestral project. Once they've arrived and settled in, it's not long before we're presenting them with new opportunities and challenging them to work towards new goals. It's great to see them being stretched in different situations. When we're first getting to know a student, whether that's at audition or in their early days at the RNCM, we're keen for them to tell us more about their wider musical interests, what they see as their strengths, their weaknesses, and their goals. Together with Catherine Yates, we have an open door policy, and we're ready and keen to hear from students and to hear what matters to them. To give you an example, I had one particular cello student, and early in our discussions, she told me about her passion for singing. I took her to meet my colleagues in the vocal department to chat with them. As I followed her progress, it was good to see her performing not only as a cellist, but also as a singer, for example, in the RNCM chamber choir. She also told me about her interest in folk music, and it wasn't long before I saw her joining together with other like-minded students to play folk music. With her folk group, she won a number of competitions, had a busy schedule of folk gigs, and broadcast on national radio. She also got a great result in her final recital as a cellist, and she achieved a first-class degree. But more than percentages or procedures, we're about people, and that's enabling students to take the musical journey that's right for them. I can tell you similar stories about string students with interests in composition or piano, violinists who wish to develop on the viola, and double bassists who wish to learn to play the electric bass guitar. We have an open class policy, which means that you can attend practically any teaching that's happening at the RNCM, and that opens up hundreds of hours of extra tuition. We're here to encourage the students to be curious and to make the most of everything that's going on. It's all part of finding your own path into the world of professional music. The main part of your tuition in the School of Strings will be your contact time with your teacher. Actually, we put on a range of activities, and in a moment, I'm going to ask Catherine Yates to talk to you about some of the masterclasses, workshops, and collaborations which we arrange. I spend over 90% of my budget on paying the teachers to work with you personally. Just to be clear, that's your individual lessons, so you get loads of personal tuition. As you'd imagine, there's an expectation that you do lots of practice, and the course gives you the time and space to do that. Our teachers come from all over Europe. Some live in the UK, and some travel here from abroad. I have absolute confidence in each member of staff, and our team is full of really outstanding performers. Teachers here need to prove that they can really teach, and that includes habit correction, goal setting, step-by-step action plans, and tailoring their style to meet the needs of any particular student. More than that, our staff are kind, personable, and inspiring. They realise that great teaching is so much more than just training hands. You're probably interested to know how students are finally placed with a teacher. Well, the first thing I should say is that it's a collaborative process. After your audition, we'll know you're playing pretty well, where your strengths lie, and where you need to develop. We also know our teachers well, and we'll suggest a couple of teachers whom we think can best meet your needs. Many students are happy to leave the decision to us, but I should say that we're keen to hear from you and to get a discussion going. You might decide to have some consultation lessons, and we'll help you with that process. At the end of this, it's going to be your decision and one that you're 100% happy with. So I'm going to now hand over to Catherine Yates and ask her to talk to you a little bit about chamber music and some of our workshop projects.
Chris has already alluded to chamber music, and you would be right to assume that from my quartet background, I'm passionate about chamber music too. It is a huge part of what we do. All string students are looked after by Deputy Head of Chamber Music Donald Grant, who is also the second violinist of the wonderful Elias Quartet. If you don't know them, look them up. They're fantastic performers. When he's not touring, giving concerts, he's with us, teaching and inspiring our students. Donald is actually also a skilled folk fiddler and composer too, a fine example of the broad and rounded musician that we all encourage our students to become. As a first-year undergraduate, you will do chamber music right from the start, and we are proud of the generous amount of tuition that is on offer, both with your regular coach, but also with a wide range of visiting tutors, many sessions such as with the Elias Quartet. Chamber music is so important to the RNCM that we recently set up a quartet studio to support young quartets on the cusp of their career, and we're also delighted to host the European Chamber Music Academy also here in this building. We also believe that one of the best ways to learn is to play with musicians who are more experienced or better than you are. To this end, we regularly have staff and visiting artists play with our students, both informally and in concert. Recent examples might be a performance of Copeland's Appalachian Spring, which had 7 of 13 players as staff members or visiting professionals, and the remainder were all students keen to learn. We also, back in January, had a performance of a Brahms sextet, which had 3 staff and 3 students playing together. 2 of the staff members happened to be Chris and myself. We take this idea further by including professional involvement in our larger ensembles too, seeing orchestras very much as big chamber music. You will see a professional leader, for example, at the helm of our brand new orchestra who play contemporary music, or perhaps even a principal viola who's a professional player, galvanizing from the inside as well. Chris has already said that the bulk of your tuition will be one-to-one with your own teacher, but we like to provide a range of complementary workshops that will also help you develop all your skills. Topics might range from broad technical issues, breathing, how to practice, through to stagecraft, communication, early years teaching, and even Baroque dance. These are open to all students and are fully interactive. And to support your orchestral training, we regularly provide workshops on preparing orchestral excerpts and auditions with their own particular challenges. Of course, masterclasses are also integrated into our programme across the board here, and we do our very best to include visiting artists who are down the road at the Bridgewater Hall or maybe playing in Liverpool with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic to come and share their expertise with us also.
Hello again. Some new students admit to feeling a bit nervous in coming from their local musical environment to a top European conservatoire. If that's you, you needn't worry. You might have heard the phrase safe to fail, and that's about making the right environment for students to be themselves, having the freedom to try things out, learning from each other's mistakes, and moving forward as a team and as individuals. Our students tell us how supported they feel here, and it's really good to see them achieving great performance standards for striving for targets which are just beyond them. Our role is to give the students the inspiration and the tools to know how to breach that gap. Much of the course is actually like being in the music profession, practicing, rehearsing, giving concerts, managing a diary, making the most of opportunities. You'll work with lots of RNCM staff who have one foot in the music profession, working busily as performers, and one foot here in college. This ensures that what we do is totally relevant. Wherever you want to go within the scope of the music profession, we have staff who are currently working in that area.
As Chris has already said just now, Many of our staff have feet in various camps professionally, both here and elsewhere, outside the building, performing hard in all sorts of areas. As part of our striving to give the very, very best preparation for all our students for a fulfilling and rewarding life out in the world, we're very fortunate to have many professional partner organisations with whom we collaborate. This means our students have access to some of the finest active musicians around. We have partnerships with ensembles such as the Chamber Orchestra of Europe, the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, Manchester Camerata, Academy of Ancient Music, Manchester Collective, amongst others. Typically, our students will rehearse and perform with key players sent to us from these ensembles, creating a realistic professional experience born out of the professional expectations of the visiting players and their ensemble know-how. We also run schemes with orchestras such as the BBC Philharmonic, where more senior students audition to a panel from the orchestra. If successful, they are mentored through a series of rehearsals, broadcasts, recordings, and concerts, creating the ultimate real professional experience and taking with them something that will be on their CV when they leave here.
One of the challenges we set our students is to do screened orchestral auditions. This means that you play behind a screen and you're not allowed to say anything so that the panel have no idea who you are. To be honest, it may not be everyone's favourite thing, but all the students know just how valuable it is. All year groups do 2 of these per year, with the exception of our first year students who do only 1. These auditions give you the opportunity to learn relevant and career-defining orchestral excerpts. Typically, our panellists are professional musicians who sit on panels just like this in the professional world. Students tell us how they value the feedback from these professional players. And students appreciate that one day their career may depend on an experience just like this. We use the marks to guide us in the seating plans for our orchestra project. It also helps us to track your progress and to see how you're improving at these midpoints throughout the year. For clarity, I should say that these auditions don't determine how much orchestral playing you do, not at all. That's different, and that's done by sharing it around as fairly as we can. I thought it would be good to talk for a moment about our performance opportunities. This being a performance course, you'd expect there to be lots of opportunities to get on the stage. Chances to perform start with your teacher's class, in which you'll play regularly in front of your peers. In these classes, you might be playing anything from your scales or studies through to a complete concerto. We also programme strings recital classes in which you're given 30 minutes in one of our prime venues. On those occasions, you can work with a staff pianist and you'll be playing to a staff member who's in the audience. It's another way of getting on stage and getting feedback. Throughout the year, there's a variety of masterclasses and internal competitions, and for each of these, you'll again be playing in a prime venue, performing to students, staff, and often to a paying audience. Then there are our public recital series, which take place in the recital room or in here. You can put your name forward to perform on your own or with your chamber music group. We also have an external engagements office, which is a bit like an agent, and we send students to perform in paid concerts nationwide. So for those who are hard, improving well, and who are proactive, the opportunities are plentiful. Every year in January, it's our Strings Festival. That's our showcase event, and it's an international festival in which the world's very best artists collaborate with our students, as well as performing recitals and concertos. Typically, the BBC Philharmonic or the Halle are involved, and our students form 50% of the string section. We programme big and challenging repertoire. It's great fun, and music making which the students will never forget. One thing which students often ask us is whether we can help them with the use of a good instrument. In brief, the answer is yes. We have a large and growing collection of fine instruments to borrow. Over the last few years, I've been commissioning instruments from the very best makers around Europe. These makers are in demand for good reason, and sometimes I'm waiting 2 or 3 years for the right instrument to be made. Our students are lucky to be able to use these instruments for the duration of their time here, and often for the year beyond the RNCM, which is when they'll be setting out into the professional world. Personally, I think you'd really like the RNCM and Manchester. It's a vibrant European city with some great football teams and 3 premier orchestras. It's big on music and culture. There's everything you want, and it's a really manageable place to live. I cycle to work, and once I'm here, I walk everywhere in the city, and there's no need to use public transport. There are about 96,000 students in Manchester, and it's relatively cheap to live. If you choose to live in our hall of residence, it's right next door to this building. After your evening concerts, you can chat with your friends in the bar area before walking next door to where you live. It should take you less than a minute. Life here is time effective and cost effective, which means that you can focus on the important things, such as working and your well-being. I'll be really happy to answer any questions you'd like to ask in our webinars, Catherine too, and in our Zoom meetings, which are coming up shortly. Thank you for watching this far, and I hope to have the opportunity to talk to you and hear you play in the near future. Bye-bye.